Well, I'm going to start trying to peel off the ignition system. And I'm going to leave as much of the wiring intact as I possibly can. And obviously this all goes up to the key. I have to take that off. Well, maybe not. I do have to take these two bolts out, and there's a ground. See that ground? Goes right to there. Comes down from here somewhere and goes up to there. So I have to get that screw out, this ground off, and there's a couple of screws right there, and hopefully that folds down this way. And then we'll go out and start peeling off the coils too. One of the things I used to run into as a younger man was these were always froze. They were always corroded. This one's not. And that's the difference between a freshwater motor and a saltwater motor. If that was a saltwater motor, that would have been pretty froze up. This one I have. Should be this clamp right there. I'm going to take that, put it right back on the block. Well, shoot. Right there is where the telltale came from. Put this tire tube right back on this. Probably ought to replace that, and I think I will. Just get a tire tube and do it. But just for information, this terminal goes right to the battery. This terminal goes right to the starter. I put an arrow up here on top on both of them. Not that you're going to have a problem figuring out what that is, but I just want to make sure I've got it documented where it is. Now, peel that wire out of there. Like that. Let me start with the stator. Get the stator off. That's the charging system and really the power plant for the whole system. Top, medium, bottom. I marked them top, bottom. Mark those two. Let's see what happens. Shall we start pulling these out? Notice you have the ground wire, the black wire to one of the screws, because you got to ground everything on here, right? Got the ground on this one here too. I lost the washer from the other one. Just as a note, notice the middle one had the wire clamp. The middle one had the wire clamp. I need to keep track of that. The bottom had this big wire clamp. The bottom one had bottom coil, top bolt on the bottom coil had that, and that's what held this connector in place. Right? See, stuff like that, after you've done a gazillion of them, you'll remember all that stuff. I haven't done one of these in probably 40 years. So I have to remember stuff I had forgotten 30 years ago. And again, this one too had the ground on the bottom. I got them pretty much all weighted, all the coils. Right? Now, this wire right here goes to a thermometer in the block. And I'm hoping there's a connector somewhere I can pull apart. If not, I'm going to have to break it. I'm guessing that's what that is right there. And basically it's just a thermocouple. Well, check this out. I haven't seen one of these kind of connectors in years and years and years. And basically you bend it like that. It kind of hooks like this and comes back into play this way. That's a really, really cool. I'll forget. So now we have this off. Now the bus will probably come out as well. I mean, if I can get the whole wiring harness pretty much off, let me get these so it's not hanging. Then I don't have to figure out how to reconnect it. Oh, notice where this wire went. This wire went right in there. See it? The wire that went to the solenoid went between the poles on the middle coil. How about this one? Is this going to go for us? Yes. Get the bus bar off. I really hope I can make this work as a motor, because I've always liked the simplicity of them. The bus bar is off. I'm going to pull the wires out from behind that. Couple of these little guys. Now there's a ground right here. See it right here? And this grounds from up in this wire right here. So that ground comes from here to the bottom pole, the ground out of this wiring harness. So this off should be free. It pretty much is. See how that plug goes in there? Kind of goes down, goes behind the clamp, up through here, and then down behind the clamp again. And both those wires are behind the clamp. Both of these wires that came out of the stator go down behind that. Alright, where does this one go? Ah. Goes to this goofy thing. I'm going to end up pulling off the throttle, aren't I? Arrangement. Remember it was sitting over here? The wire goes underneath that wire clamp right there. It's going underneath it. See it? It goes underneath that one right there. So little details like that matter. And it went underneath that pole. So we got this here. So we're almost to the point where we can start taking off the stator. See, these were corroded. These had gotten weathered. That's what held the stator, these ones right here. And they're a little bit longer, and they've got the corrosion on them. Stator should be off. And there's our stator. And now we have the trigger. Gotta be really careful with these wires. They get all so brittle. I don't want to have to buy a new one of those. Now basically what holds this, this is the stator plate. And I think what I'm going to try to do is see if I can also get it off intact. They've got these little screws with little metal tabs, and that's what pretty much holds it. And once we get that off, I pretty much just have to detach this. I think they just kind of pop out. And I can pretty much get everything out. Let me show you what these look like. They just sort of reach in there and grab the base of the stator plate, which is some kind of a plastic. There's 3 of them. Here's the second one. You would have to, there it goes. I thought it was going to argue with me a little bit more. That should be free. The whole system should be completely free. And see if I can delicately get everything off of here. And from behind the throttle. See, both of those wires came from behind the throttle. Let me get the stator. Get this whole mess. Look at this. Now we're going to go look at that in more detail at another point in time. Now, what do we have? We have an engine block that's beginning to become exposed that we can take off. Now, to get this thing apart, I got a couple things I got to do first. You know, yeah, I think I'm just going to take the fuel pump and just let it lay. Right? And then I have to take the shift shaft, release that, and then we can get into detaching the power head from what we have here. And then hopefully tonight I can bust it open and we can see all the insides. I got a little bit of cleanup to do here because I have a chainsaw shop, not a boat motor shop. So I don't have copious amounts of space to store all this stuff, you know. My bench, I'm going to have to come up with a way or a box or something to store the components before I start working on the block itself. But if we can get to the point where you can see the definition of failure in this thing, I would call that a good day. There is a nylon ring. It's like a bearing surface that sets down in the aluminum of the block, and then the stator sets down on that. Then they've got these little stainless steel clamps that kind of reach in. See that right there? Reach in over the top and then screw into I'll hold it there on the block. There's one. Okay. And there's one more over here. And this should still be free. It is. And of course they had to make this stainless steel, so you can't set it in with a magnet. Here we go. There. Turns nice and smooth. It's on a nylon bearing. These guys are nice and tight. Then after this, after the switch, stator goes on top of that. Now what I had done is, before I got into this thing, is I put an arrow where it's supposed to sit, and then there's 3 screws that hold the stator down. Pretty much set right in there. Metric hits again, little 10 millimeters. Yeah, and these are not ones you want to get too tight either. You just want them down in there where they stay. Alright, that should be good. Alright, what's next? I'm going to set the solenoid richening device in there next. And I'm just going to put it in loose because I'll put the hoses on. But probably better do it with a pair of pliers. The problem I have is I'm going to have to put tie wraps on them. I'm contemplating just getting a whole bunch of hose and just replace all of it. So. That's the enrichening device. This little barrel I stuck right back in there. And I pushed the wires into that cavity. And I'm having these wires go underneath and over. The wire from the solenoid is going over that boss. The wire from this mess right here is going under. Goes right to the switch box. So the switch box right here, I marked a top and a bottom. And that's the bus. So I'm putting that in right now. Well, go figure. It's got 2 different size screws. I wouldn't have guessed that. Certainly don't want to get too tight on that one. I'll strip right out. Okay. Alright, we're getting to the point where we have to start putting on coils. This is the temperature sensor. It plugs into this. So somewhere in here there's a wire loom. And we're going to see how this plays. Alright, here's the top.